Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. I am so glad to be back with you guys. This is Anna. I can be heard now because I have a microphone that works. Thank you so much for telling me. Sorry that took a minute for it to kick in. Okay, so I'm going to start over again. Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. Today we are going to be working with the Selective Color tool in Photoshop. I swear, the first intro is always the best one. You missed a good one, you guys. Darn it. Oh, that's so funny. Anyways, okay, so today we're going to be working with the Selective Color tool. I'm going to show you a few techniques with it, maybe some things that you didn't know about, because I didn't even know before I started researching for this episode some of the things that it can do. And I'm going to jump into Photoshop now that I've been muted. Sorry about that. Everybody in the chat, hey, said unmute please. Patrick says hello. Keith says no sound. Wade says woof. There we go. Oh, too much sound. Am I loud? I'm sorry. Okay, so I am here. Hopefully the audio is good. I apologize again. Let's jump into Photoshop. So here I have a CMYK file that I want to show you about the Selective Color tool and how it can apply to CMYK. This is a tool that is down here in our adjustment layers. So if you're unfamiliar with the adjustment layers, they're right at the bottom of your layers panel. There's a little half filled in circle down there. And right at the bottom, at the very bottom down here is Selective Color. And again, I am working in CMYK because this is a CMYK tool. It actually has all the colors on there. You can see the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black right there. And this is particularly amazing for printing. So if you're unfamiliar, RGB is usually what we use for digital color, and CMYK is usually what we use for print because ink has certain limitations. So when working with CMYK, you're literally talking directly in the language of a printer. So let's jump into what this is about. We've got a CMYK color palette spectrum here. This is strictly just taken from Photoshop. I literally did a screen grab of the CMYK spectrum, and I wanted to just play around with a Selective Color layer on here. So how I did that is I went down to that half circle, I went to the bottom, Selective Color, just clicked on it, it popped up. And then how you can apply it to a specific layer is you can hover between the layers, click your Alt key and then press down and it will clip it automatically. Another way to do that is to right click on the layer that you want to clip and then just say clip layer. All right. So Peter is saying, Wade, thank you for modding today, Wade. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So with the Selective Color tool, again, we can go into all of these colors, and up here at the top, you can see that there is a colors panel. Right now it is set to black, but when you click it open, you can see reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magenta, white, neutral, black. All this possibility here. What I want to show you is its effect on color first. So we've got the reds. When you're in the reds, you can toggle any of these any which way, and you can kind of see the effect that it has. So what we've got is making the reds more or less cyan, more or less magenta, more or less yellow. This basically changes the shift of the color to be a different proportion of mix of the different colors, because every color, especially like when printed, it's a mix of different hues that is going into it. So we're just changing the proportions of those hues. This helps a lot when you are trying to shift a color ever so slightly. And then at the very bottom, you can see the yellows are being affected right now. I hope you guys can see the effect of this. Like, whoa, that yellow saturation goes down to basically white and then all the way up to super, super yellow. And then at the bottom here is one of the most impactful things. This is black. You can see it goes all the way to black. Like, it is really powerful. So you're not only affecting the colors of this, but also the luminosity. So this is something that is extremely powerful in Photoshop, and sometimes, dare I say it, I prefer it over hue saturation for color changes. Whoa, everybody calm down. I know, I said it. Whoa. But this is something that you can also have power over how much it affects the color with this thing at the bottom called relative or absolute. You can kind of see the difference here. Relative, it does a subtle job of changing the hue. That it's just kind of ever so slightly making it like a little bit more like that or a little bit less. And then when you do absolute, it's like the hardcore version. Like, whoa, we really get to the color. Oh, yeah. So the yellow is now basically green. So you can really shift what you want, how you want to control this. If you want it to be absolute or if you want it to be relative. Robert says, can you call this pinned the color? Pinned the color? This is called pinned the color. Okay, so this was your example of what selective color does. Let me show you, oops, a little bit about how you can use it in your artwork. Or this can totally apply to like any kind of artwork. It can be photography, it can be paintings, it can be anything. Anything that you use Photoshop for. What I use it for, I'm a children's book illustrator, and so I use it for a multitude of things, but one of them is to bring color to something that is only value. So I have this piece that is strictly grayscale, and I am just, I mean, it's very loosey-goosey, literally, because it's got geese in it. But this is something that, oh, I lost all my tabs. That's so weird. Did I go out of some kind? Oh, okay, sorry. Photoshop things. Okay, so I just had the window out of the thing. Okay, so I have this black and white piece, and I've duplicated it a few times so that we can apply color to this black and white piece and have different color studies, essentially. Just the idea of starting into color can be so intimidating for some people that you want something to start off of, an idea, a concept of a color palette. And one way that you can apply color to something that's black and white is to use selective color. Now, there are a million ways to do things in Photoshop. There are color blend modes, there are hue saturation layers, there are a million things, but I'm going to show you how selective color does it, and it's very cool. So right now we have our selective color layer. I have clipped it to our first color version of this that I want. And I'm going to go down to the whites, neutrals, and blacks. I think the neutrals will have the most impact at the beginning, so I want to just play with those first. And you can see immediately how much of an impact it has on those values. The neutrals are the midtones, so if we're thinking of going from white to black, they're right in the middle. So whatever is neutral here is being affected by what I say on the slider. Now I can go to whites and say I want it to be a little more yellow, then boom, I get yellow. And it's somewhat affecting each other. There are little bits that feel like, okay, so it turns the lightest of the midtones into something that is slightly more the color that I'm choosing on this slider. But that's something that I think creates a color cohesion. So this is a really strong starting place for our color palette tester. That's what I'm going to call it. Our pinned color. Okay, so I think I want the shadows here to be a little more on the purpley side, maybe even towards red. And this is also a really fun place to just play. I want to kick up the black so I can really have some contrast between the tree and the background. By the way, this is based off of my view of the river where I live. It is absolutely beautiful out there. So we've got this really blue piece so far. It's kind of, well, I'd say it's more cyan. And I can always, of course, tweak this as I go along. This is non-destructive, so it's completely able to be edited, go back and forth. So I'm going to go into the second version. I'm going to, once again, go to the half-colored circle down here. That is our adjustment layers. Click selective color. Alt hover between the layers and then click, and it clips it to it. And once again, we're on neutrals, and I'm gonna go for a different color scheme. I think I want more of a green one for this, just to play around with that idea. And I'm gonna show you how you can get even more nuance in this in just a second, but right now I just want like overwhelming, what do you call it? The overall color idea for the piece. That's what I'm going for. Okay, so I'm going to make it slightly more of a bluey green. Yeah, right there. Okay, and then we go to our blacks, and we can... Ooh, that's kind of sickly feeling. It's funny how much colors can make you feel when you're looking at them, where it's like, oh yeah, that gives me a definitive vibe. I think I like this one being slightly more of like a paler blue. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, not pale, desaturated. There we go. And saturation is always a factor in all of this, so try to keep your eye trained for like how much saturation you want in a piece. All right, last time, let's go to selective color. Let's click Alt, hover between them, click it down, got it clipped. And now let's go to neutrals. I think we should go for a warmer one. What if we went for like kind of a sepia tone, like an old-timey photograph? Look at this photograph. Okay, and then we go to black, and then I want to pump up the magenta. Wait, that's yellow. There we go. Yeah, that's the good stuff. And then maybe blow it out a little bit, lower the black so that it's like slightly less contrast. And then, oh yeah. It's so funny how everything, like, I think your brain gets trained a little bit into thinking in CMYK after a while, because when you think of, okay, so color theory of this, how do I make it feel more yellow? Sometimes it's not just pumping up the yellow, but it's pumping down the cyan. That kind of stuff. Okay, here we go. I think that's cool. Now, we've got some really, overall strong color where it's like blue, green, orangey, sepia, whatever. And those are great and fine and dandy. But here is the second feature I want to show you of selective color because it is super cool. We can put another selective color mask here. I'm gonna collapse these down so that I have my color studies. I can do that by doing Control or Command E, just by the way, if you want that hot tip. Okay, so I'm going to put another selective color mask, and I'm going to clip it again to our first one. Whoops. Beep, beep, beep. It is really nice, actually, to zoom out on these guys to get an overall feel of the color so that you don't lose that zoomed out version of the piece. You want to see this at a small range so that you can tell if it's working. A lot of times you need to zoom out on your work. Okay, so everybody, pay attention for one moment. This is a really cool feature of selective color. So if you go over to the right, there is a mask setting, and you can do a color range on your piece. And I have clicked that I want the mask preview to be in quick mask, so I can see directly what I'm selecting on the piece and what it is thinking that is. You can also control how much of it really collects. Sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's too little, so you can really control the nuance here. What I want is the sky. We can do a little more or less or whatever. Okay, boom, we've got it. And now, when we press OK and we go back to our properties panel, we can go to the selective color side of things. So on the right is the mask, on the left is the selective color. And we can change, here we go, neutrals. We can change the color of the sky, just like that. Do you see how quick that was? Because it created the mask itself, and it was just a color picker. So definitely use that in the future if you ever want a really quick way to just select out a specific color. If it's based on a color range or a value range, you can easily do it with selective color. All right, so we've got the sky in here. I think I want it a little bit lighter. I want it a little bit punchier with the color. Oh yeah, so now we've got a little bit, it's still overall blue, but it's a little bit of variety where it's like a blue or green and now a blue of the sky. I can also pop another one on there. I can click it to clip it to clip it, baby. And I can put another mask on there. So I want to do a color range, and I want to do the clouds this time. Okay. And this is really getting finicky. I can just go in and make them whatever color I want, but I want them to be a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to do a few little changes like that. It's very subtle, but it's there. So fun and so quick. It's awesome. Okay. Once again, onto the breach. All right. Going over to mask, going over to color range. I think I want to select these geese. And I can put this down a little bit so it doesn't select any of the grass or any of that stuff. Want it enough? All right, there we go. And then we go over to our properties of this. I think it's going to be a neutral is going to have the most impact here. Let's do, what kind of color should the geese be? What do you think? Oh, Keith says, Anna, sorry to point this out, but selective color works in RGB mode as well. It absolutely does. It's I have been working in CMYK to make it all kind of easily explainable to you guys, because CMYK is something, it's a specific kind of idea of how these colors mix, and that's why I'm talking about CMYK. But if your image is in RGB mode, it absolutely works the same. It also is awesome. So thank you for pointing that out, Keys. No need to be sorry. Clever says purple gray geese. All right, let's pump up the magenta. Let's get the yellows down. I think we can lighten it slightly by taking out some black. I think something like that. What do you think? Purple gray. It's a little warm here. I'll pump down the magentas just a little bit up on the cyan. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Polka dot party geese. Okay, okay. Coming in hot with the ideas here. All right, so these are two of the ways that I wanted to show you how to use selective color. This is applying color in the first mask to a black and white piece. Or sorry, not the first mask. So here are the three ways that I wanted to show you how to use selective color. One is applying color to a black and white piece. The second is applying more color with masks to specify where you want specific colors. And now I want to show you the final way of using it, which is adjusting the colors on an existing piece. This is a painting that I've already made, and it's super fun. It's got a lot of greens, it's got the pops of yellow and orange and a little bit of reds, but it's not a ton of variety. It's got mostly greens. It's very overwhelmingly green, which I love, but I also feel like it could use a little bit of pushing and pulling of color this way and that. So we can just play with that. We can go to selective color, apply it, or click it and clip it. I can't stop saying it. Apparently clipping is clicking in my mind. And what we can do is go into any one of these colors and play around with things, or the values. The neutrals, whites, and blacks I find to be the most powerful, especially when I am altering my own pieces. A lot of times I want to do this based on values, but sometimes you're just like, that blue is slightly off from what I want. I want it to be slightly more yellow, but I don't want to go in and repaint every little place that it's been. And maybe it's not on its own layer. So this is really the best way to go in there and individually control the colors. Let's go to greens and see what we can do. We can push and pull. You can see all over how much effect that has, just pumping up the magentas in the greens. Then we've got cyan. We can make it really yellow, kind of feel like a sunny afternoon, or we can go into the cyans really heavily, make it feel like a lush forest. And this really comes down to a lot of creative freedom of what do you want it to feel like, not just, oh, I'm applying color and it goes here and this one goes here. Before you saw I was making the sky blue, things like that. You can really get creative with what the colors are, and sometimes these happy accidents happen because you're using a selective color slider. You never know exactly how the colors will come out. Sometimes you know a lot and you could really specifically adjust these colors, but then other times they're just happy accidents that happen. It's really fun. And I also find it really useful to put sliders around people who are just learning about color, because you can go too far to one side and too far to the other and realize that like the happy in between is somewhere in the middle there. Sometimes, especially when I'm adjusting values in my piece, I will feel like, oh, it's as far as it needs to go, it's done. But then I'll throw on a slider kind of adjustment. Maybe it's selective color, maybe it's hue saturation, maybe it's levels. And I will slide it too far to one side and too far to the other. And then when I find that happy medium, it's very different from what I assumed it would be. So sliders can be really helpful in that way. Do you guys ever feel like that? Do you ever feel like a slider just makes it easier for your brain to do the thing? All right, so I'm going to go into the neutrals and pop up the magenta so that we get a little bit more warmth in our shadows. I know that that sounds kind of counterintuitive sometimes. A lot of people go for cool shadows. I think that warm shadows are really fun to play with, especially when you're using a lot of greens, because green is inherently a cooler color. It's got a lot of blue in it and, of course, yellow. But when you pull out warm touches like oranges and reds, like I've got little brush strokes of those in here, it just makes the green pop so much more. So using those kind of complementary tones can make it just that much more special. Let's pop into the blacks. Not a bunch of movement there, but we can also go into some of those reds and, ooh, let's go into the yellows and maybe make them a little bit more orange. Okay, so this is dangerous because I love this piece already, but now I love it more. Do I have to go back and change it now? Look at that. So that's our beginning, and now with selective color. Now, again, this is all up to creative taste, opinion, whatever you feel like, you can adjust it to be like that. I love this. I feel like this is more effective than the original because the original feels like, yes, there's some wonderful greens happening, but this is just so much more depth and mood. It feels good to my eyes. Keith says, I'm lurking and listening. Hey, I'm happy to be your ambient entertainment today. I hope everybody's having a lovely day, by the way. All right, I'm going to pop into our whites and see if I can change some of our cat color. Oh, yeah, I can, definitely. Oh, we can have a pink cat. Look at that. That's the power of absolute changes here. You got relative and absolute. I'm an absolute, so it's really powerful. I can make a blue cat. I could make a blue cat. I think that I really liked when we started just having it a little bit more white, taking some of the yellow that I had in there out. I feel like that makes it pop even more. Ooh, we could have a black cat. That was one of the things I played with when I first brought that color spectrum from the CMYK gradient into here. I played with making all of the colors into black. All I did was I went down every single one of these and put the black all the way up to 100%, and it did turn the whole thing black. I was just curious if it would, so that's one of those things. It's fun to play with. Oh, the reds have a really powerful effect. Okay, so let's play around with what should or could happen. This is also, just to keep in mind, all relative to each other. So if I pump the yellow up, yes, it'll give it more yellow, but it'll be even more if I take the cyan down, take the magenta down, then I get a pure yellow. So it really is all relative to each other. Joshua says I'm lurking and working too. Yes. Absolutely. Oh, Kane says ready for another day of learning. Then you're in the right place. By the way, in a few minutes, I will say goodbye, and there will be a File New with Ryan Selvey. If you have not been on the File New train, you should absolutely tune in because it is a hoot and holler and good time. And today, Ryan is going to be reviewing Adobe Max London, which if you didn't know, that happened over the weekend. So this is going to be a really special File New. Very excited for that. Okay, now let's look at the before and after. So we've got the green, and now we've got the moody dark. Okay, I want to do one more thing. When we go into the greens, I do think I need to ease up just a tiny bit on the magenta and then go a little bit. Yeah, I was going to say more yellow, but just by taking down the cyan, it became more yellow. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's the right call for me. We are missing a little bit of some of our bluer greens. So what I can do is go, once again, selective color. And I'm going to color range. Let's just pick around a little bit. See if one of these or the others seem like a good chunk. I think these leaves will be nice. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to try to bring back some of that bluiness. Yeah, just ever so subtly. I know it's really subtle probably on your screens, but there is change happening here. Yeah, okay, you can see when I go into the neutrals for sure. So I want that to be a little bit more blue than the other greens. And then we bring back some of that lovely blueness. Now this also acts as the same kind of mask that every other mask is, so you can absolutely come in here with a brush and paint on or off, reveal or hide. So thank you so much for hanging around today and seeing what Selective Color did. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff about Selective Color. I had no idea that you could mask with it. It's very powerful with the values, the colors, and everything that we know now about CMYK. Thank you again for being here. I hope you have a great day. Clever says, a hoot and a holler. Hoot and holler and good time. All right. Patrick says, thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much, Patrick, and everybody else in the chat. I will see you again soon. And remember to stick around for Ryan Selvey and File New. Bye.